On this episode of ResiWeek, CES announces their keynote, video on demand streaming fights, and Meridian plus Sonos. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 255, The Perfect Marriage.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Access Networks and by Middle Atlantic. What great systems are built on.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek, your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week, pleased to be joined by three of my good friends. First, we have Amanda Wildman. She is the co-owner of True Media Home. How you doing, Amanda?
Doing excellent, Matt. We still don't have snow here in Michigan, so that means that I can still keep working my butt off. It's good.
No, I want snow. I am patiently awaiting snow. It showed up and it melted, and yeah.
Snow is great to ski in and everything, not great to pull wire in.
I want to ski. I don't want to pull wire. That's where we seem to differ today. Then we have Mr. Mark Feinberg. He's the president of Home Theater Advisors. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, Matt, how are you? We got our snow in New York, and in great New York fashion, it was beautiful for a couple of hours, and now it's just black muck.
How much do you still have? Do you still have like a foot and a half?
No, I think we only got about 10 to 12 inches, I think, in the city. It's probably good, 4 or 5 still on the ground. It's warm today, so it's melting off today.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And last but certainly not least, going up that storm track, we have Jason Knott, the Chief Content Officer at CE Pro. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well, and we still have plenty of snow up here, so you're welcome to it.
I can't get across the border, man. I want to come visit, but I can't. It's a problem these days. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last newsworthy show of the year, and we're going to kick it off with something about the start of next year. This comes to us from CE Pro, actually. Best Buy CEO Corey Berry is going to keynote the digital CES 2021. If you missed the news, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, CES this year is going to be 100% digital with more than 100 conference sessions, over 1,000 exhibitors, and a live anchor desk with, I believe, 4 well-known tech faces, if you will. Amanda, I want to start with you on this. Best Buy, I think, is, in any normal year, it would be a weird choice as a keynote. But this year, they were really influential and really led the way in shifting in like 3 days to curbside pickup and all of the things that now are commonplace around the globe for shopping and for obtaining things. They pivoted faster and showed not only leadership, but just foresight that they really haven't had for the last couple of years. So I think it's fantastic that she is going to be keynoting this. What is your takeaway? What do you think that attendees are going to get from her session? Is she going to talk specifically about those transitions, or is she going to sales pitch it?
I think that one, she'll talk about those changes and those pivots and stuff, but also I think that it tells a lot about her, being a female CEO of a tech company. I mean, she's a mom too, so she's really big on multitasking. So I think that that's awesome. And having to pivot, I mean, I think that that's something she's probably well used to, but I also think it's going to be a huge opportunity for her to potentially speak about diversity and inclusion. I know a lot of her conversations and stuff have been around that. So, and I think that we found this year, with people working remotely and working from home, that there's a lot more flexibility. A lot more people are interested in getting involved in our industry. And not only do we have to be flexible with how we do things, but who we do things with. So I think bringing other perspectives, hiring on the people that maybe don't look exactly like us, and bringing new concepts and new ideas. So I'm actually pretty excited about it.
I will note that she is not the only keynote speaker. They are also including Verizon's Hans Vestberg and one of my favorites, General Motors' Mara Berry, as well as Dr. Lisa Su from AMD and Warner Media's Anna Sarnoff. think I said that right. But if you're going to catch anything, definitely catch Corey Berry's keynote as well as Mary Berry. I've heard her speak quite a few times, and she's phenomenal.
So
Jason?
one thing I hope she talks about, and you're talking about how they were able to kind of pivot when the pandemic hit, but it's almost like they had some sort of a crystal ball to know to set up the total tech support program. If everybody knows $199 a year or 17 something a month or whatever the number is, that you get access to a Best Buy tech support person to call if you're having problems with anything in your home. And they have 2.3 million subscribers to that, which adds up to over $9 million. Actually, it's more than that. I'm very terrible at math, but they said the usage increased exponentially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Think about how perfectly timed that was to have that service in place before the pandemic hit. Just, I don't want to call it sheer luck. They're just so smart people over there.
Yeah, very much so.
Remember, she also worked in that whole area, in that whole department. She was promoted up, but one of her areas was working in with the Geek Squad and working within that whole entire area. So
that is how our industry is going. I mean, the whole concept of remote support and charging for it has been preached for years by us and to us. So it's not like it's a new idea. Matt may have had something to do with that.
Yeah, totally. So Mark, let me ask you this. With CES being digital, this is not an event that lots of integrators go to. There are some that go to, but it's usually not at the top of the list that dealers attend because it's digital. How much time should integrators pay to this? Should they devote to this show this year?
I'll be honest, I'm a little excited it's digital because I've never gone because it's I don't know how relevant it is. I've heard it's not super relevant because it's very IoT and DIY and and cell phone cases. And it's very expensive because all the rooms are kind of at rack rate by the time you get to Vegas for this. So I'm excited to be able to log into some of it and really see what CES is as opposed to just kind of hearing about it. I think people like me should give it a shot. If you've never been, it's a great opportunity probably to see at least somewhat of what it is. Judging by how the other virtual shows have gone, it's not going to be a great example, but at least we'll give you a concept of the content, watch a couple keynotes, whatever. So I think, integrators who have not made it to CES should give it a shot. Give a couple hours to it at least and listen to a couple of keynotes.
Yeah, for sure. Jason, what does success look like for CES this year? We've seen digital shows come off and be fairly effective, we'll say, with Infocom, with CEDIA, excuse me, with quite a few other shows. What is success going to look like for CES?
Well, for several years now, CES has been driven by two things. One is it is first and foremost a media event. And it's all about, if you look at all of the television programming, all the tech writers, it's about exposing your idea to the general media and the populace. And making it all digital might even expose it to more media who weren't there in the past. So secondly, it's been for I would say the last, at least half a dozen years, an international event. So it's where it was, they have a huge Shenzhen area. It's a lot of international suppliers. I think ISE for the past several years, the success of ISE has eaten into that a little bit. But I think it will be driven by those two things: the number of international attendees, and because that's where a lot of the vendors go to meet their international suppliers, and two, the number of media.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's move on to our next story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Video on-demand streaming platforms are fighting for popularity amongst increasing competition. If you missed the announcement a couple of days ago, Warner Brothers announced that they are going to stream over HBO Max day and day for quite a few of their theatrical releases, starting with Wonder Woman 1984 on Christmas Day on December 25th. They're going to do that day and day. Mark, when you follow this expansion of streaming platforms, this reminds me of back when I started, and you had to kind of know the differences between the satellite providers and the cable providers. So if your clients were moving homes, or if they were unhappy with the service, they'd talk to you, as a trusted advisor and say, hey, should I be going with, in our case up here, Bell or StarTech or Rogers? Which one should we get? Is this having the same impact, or are clients just kind of grabbing things based on what show they want to watch that week?
I still get the, should I get Fios or Spectrum? So I still get the which provider should I get? And I honestly get less of that for the streaming because almost everybody has Netflix by now. Everyone has Amazon Prime delivery. So half of them, my clients don't even realize they get Prime Video included with that. So when I tell them that, they've already got two of the top players, and then they subscribe to Showtime or HBO or something, so they get that. The major questions I get are the cord cutter solutions of YouTube TV or Hulu Live or what is it, AT&T Now or whatever DirecTV Now became. I can't remember what happened with that one. Those are the big questions I get, and honestly, what I tell them is, it really depends on what you watch as a family. It becomes more of a lifestyle question. Are you big sports people? Are you more movies? Like, how do you use your DVR? And frankly, I just tell them your best bet. They all have free trials, whether they're 1 week, 2 week, or 30 days. Give each one a shot. See which one fits your family's needs the best. For the cord cutter solutions, for the VOD solutions, I mean, more than Netflix, the Prime, the HBO Max. The challenge I see now is you almost have to have like 5 or 6 subscriptions between Apple TV Plus and Disney Plus and HBO Max and Netflix and Amazon and Hulu to get everything. There's no one place to get it all. And I found most people they're good with 2, typically, maybe a third. A lot of people got Disney Plus, when Hamilton became available or when they got Star Wars and Mandalorian. It tends to be show driven. Yeah. They're like, oh, I want to see this, so I'm going to get that channel, and then either they keep it or they drop it when they're done watching it.
Yeah, very good. Jason, I saved this question for you because I feel like you and I have talked about this 4 or 5 times this year. Is day and day going to be the driver of the competition between these networks, or is that going to fade and content will continue to like original content will continue to drive that competition between all the different platforms?
If I had to guess, it's going to be the original content. I got to think that once we're past the pandemic, that movie theaters will return. People will enjoy going back to movie theaters, and that business in some semblance will come back. Whether it's exactly the way it was before the pandemic, I don't know. But I think there's something like 60 plus streaming services now to choose from. So the bigger question that I would have for Amanda and Mark is, do you see a time where all these streaming services are embedded natively into smart TVs, and you're going to not install AVRs anymore, and you probably don't install as many media servers as you used to anyway already? But is the streaming service trend going to change the way you design a system for the home, and it's just straight to the smart TV without any sort of a hardware device that manages that content?
I would say for us, it already kind of has a little bit. I mean, we're, it's much more like, for the ancillary TVs, maybe you're still having like dedicated in like the theater room or the main viewing room where they're going to do a little bit more of, kind of like a setup. But when you're looking at, like, just the master bedroom or, the kids' rooms, I mean, the kids don't even know what a cable box is anymore, right? I mean, my kids are like, oh my God, Mom, like that's so old school, like, who still even sets that stuff up or installs that stuff? But the kids, like, I mean, they know it like the back of their hand. And I mean, they're using it for so much stuff, like not even just streaming services, but my kids all this pandemic, like they're watching TikToks and like, just airplaying it up to the TV. Like, hey mom, you got to watch this. They'll interrupt my show, which makes me crazy, but they'll quick throw a TikTok, like up on the thing. I mean, I have teenagers, so, this is how our life goes. I mean, we sit around, it sounds terrible, but we sit around the family room and like, yeah, we might be watching one main show all together, but I look around and like, I'm on my laptop, my husband's on his cell phone, the kids are on their cell phones, and, we'll pause something and, hey, this was kind of funny. Oh, what are you watching? And you just quick airplay it up to the TV and, so it totally changes the experience and it changes the hardware. And I think people are going to subscribe to one service to binge all the shows that they want. But then you go through a phase where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so over Netflix. I've binged everything that I think I want to watch. So then you go over to like Amazon Prime, and then you really hit Amazon Prime for a while and you're binging something there. So I think without having to change the hardware, it's really nice. People can just like, okay, I want to go watch this season, that season, they can move around.
Good. All right, let's change topics again. This comes to us from Residential Systems. Meridian is now joining the Meridian has been certified by the Works with Sonos program. Sorry, John, don't yell at me for that one. It provides the ability for Meridian speakers to instantly wake and change inputs just by pressing play in the Sonos app. Jason, I want to start with you on this one. This is at first glance, this is an interesting marriage.
Strange bedfellows, I think.
Strange bedfellows, but also really the best of both worlds. You have Meridian, who is arguably the top of the top, or at least in that top tier of ultra premium listening experiences. And then you have Sonos, who is the top of the top for customer experience. Now, I didn't say dealer experience, I said customer experience. This is the platform that every customer wants to use, no matter what we as dealers like to think. Is this not the perfect marriage of giving pretty much the biggest library of content available across streaming platforms and putting it in a seamless system with some of the best loudspeakers out there?
Yeah, I think it just goes to reiterate and solidify what we've been talking about for who knows how long now, and the strength and power of Sonos and their momentum, in the marketplace. And they have a very strong market usage amongst integrators. As much as integrators like to poo-poo the business model there, they use it, they deploy it more than any other speaker. I had a conversation the other day with I think it was an online, one of the high-end audiophile guys was posting about how now consumers, because of their smart speakers, now want active speakers. They want, we used to only have to plug in the subwoofer. Now they don't think a speaker is good unless it's plugged in and got a power to it, because their mindset has been changed by having a Sonos in their home that they had to plug in. So, I think it's a great deal for both of them. Meridian from exposing them to that client base that Sonos has. It's hopefully going to upsell into higher level speakers, and Sonos obviously getting to work with one of the most renowned brands in the audio space.
Yeah, very good. Amanda, when you see this, is this not a really smart move on Meridian's part to not go out? We've seen manufacturers in the past create streaming, quote unquote, platforms so that they can bring in music services, and they're clunky, they're frustrating, they're annoying. I have a client right now that we are trying to convert to Sonos from arguably a much better, by the audiophile opinion, streaming platform, but his speakers only work half the time because the platform is questionable. Is this genius? Is this something that will be a passing fade and not used by too many Meridian owners?
Well, I would just like to say bravo to Meridian for not choosing to be a Blockbuster. Blockbuster Video, when Netflix came with a new idea and a new concept and they wanted to walk away from it, and look at what's happened. I mean, they're embracing what the consumer is asking. And I had a long conversation with John about this actually just a couple of days ago. And I said, like for me, you get these couples and you get these clients, one of their first purchases when they're first, get their good job and, get their first apartment, they might be set up with a Sonos system, and then everybody wants, where do I go next from there? Where do I upgrade? Well, if you're so familiar, with the streaming platform that what, Sonos has, where do I go next? It's a huge opportunity because I know everyone out there that does Sonos complains there's not enough margin or, whatever in it. But the trade-off is there might not be as much margin as what you'd like. The trade-off is you never go back. Like you don't ever have to retrain anybody in the household how to use it. I mean, everyone from the 3-year-old kid in the home up to the 90-year-old grandma everybody can figure out how Sonos works. So how do you differentiate it now? Now you have the ability to make your margin or to upgrade the user experience because you don't want just the basic or what you had, when you first moved out into your first house. We're going to keep the experience the same, but we're going to add, much better sound, much better acoustics, and we're going to upgrade to some kick-ass looking speakers, quite frankly.
Not to mention they sound pretty good too.
Yeah, they're amazing. I told John, I said, I've never coveted anything until you go sit in the Cedia HQ and you get that seat in just the right spot with those like Meridians. I mean, like, come on. Yeah.
Mark, let me kind of pull for a minute on your background.
Sure.
Not your current day job, but your background. One of the things that gets overlooked a little bit is Sonos is a public company. They are in the business of making money for their shareholders. This is a kind of a continuation of their expansion without expanding products. Is this some of the things that we can expect to continue to see Sonos do as far as partnering and potentially, dare I say, licensing, as we talked about last week on the show, to continue to not only stay relevant from a Wall Street situation and honestly a business life situation, but how to continue to just grow that pot and grow that notoriety.
I mean, they've got to show quarter over quarter increases, right? Or year over year by the quarter increases. That's all Wall Street looks at. You manage to the quarter. That's kind of the bane of being a public company. You really don't have a choice. So yeah, I mean, if they can increase their footprint and grow the pie without having to add SKUs, add manufacturing capacity, ship it, deal with obsolescence, deal with defectives, although they don't have a whole lot of issues with obsolescence and defectives, but even so, dealing with RMAs, they don't have to worry about any of that. I mean, yes, they're going to be selling the Connect or the port that will go into the Meridian, but they're really opening up a market that I don't think they probably ever had before of a true audiophile. Audiophiles completely poo-poo Sonos. And this gives them not just the market, but a lot of credibility to now expand. I will be honest, I'm a little behind in my ResiWeeks, so I haven't listened to last week's yet. But I'm guessing you discussed the Nuvo licensing deal.
Mitchell, we'll have to.
Yeah, I'm cut
this section out.
At least I'm honest.
Yes, the Nuvo licensing deal.
Right. So I was going to bring that up. So I'm glad you mentioned it. I didn't sound like a total idiot. I was like, I'm going to mention Nuvo, and I'm going to be like coming up with something really incredible. But you're right. That is how they're going to expand. I mean, I came out of a company that was clothing, but their business, a big part of their business model was licensing. We were a huge licensee for Calvin Klein. We did Calvin Klein jeans and Calvin Klein underwear, and Calvin Klein loved it. They got their 8% a year on everything we sold, and they did nothing for it. So if Sonos can continue doing that, kudos, man. Wall Street's gonna love them.
Well, and it is something to say because Sonos has had their Works with Sonos program for a while now. Jason, I can't remember how many years it's been now, but this is something where when you go down that, not only that licensing game, but that interfacing with something that already has a quality DAC, that has been the issue with putting Sonos into an audiophile situation is, well, yes, but now we have to put it into this system. Meridian already has that built in. They've not jumped the gun, but they've jumped over that step. It's to me, it's the perfect marriage.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's Mark hit the nail on the head there. I think it's they're going to get licensing money for doing nothing. But at the same time, they've combined with, one of the preeminent brands. So I think it's a win-win, and it'll be interesting to see. I remember when Sonos came out, everybody thought wireless in general was no good. How dare you? And integrators still do prefer to do hardwired systems. We know from the data, but they do Sonos in great numbers. So I think this is a great deal. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's leave it there. Of course, unless Meridian wants to send me some speakers to demo this, I will happily, Mr. Buchanan, take you up on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to leave it there. Thank you all for joining us. Amanda, if people want to connect with you, learn more about True Media Home, where can they do that?
On all the socials, I'm at True Media Home. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can find me there. On LinkedIn, it's just my name, Amanda Wildman. But yeah, love to see you. And I love to catch up with you in a chat room or talk about product or anything AV.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Feinberg, thank you for joining us from that penthouse apartment. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Home Theater Advisors, where can they do that?
Best is Mark at Home Theater Advisors, or Facebook and Twitter, Home Theater Advisors or HT Advisors.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Mr. Knott, as always, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Always appreciate having you on. If people want to connect with you, learn more about CE Pro or catch your podcast, where can they do that?
They can always go to cepro.com, and they can follow me on Twitter at Jason W. Knott. And I just want to say thank you, Matt, for inviting me throughout the year. And I'm glad we all survived 2020. And what you do at AVNation helped us a little bit, make it a little more palatable this year.
Glad we could help. That's the goal. Thanks again, all of you, for joining us this week. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, crap. Sorry, Mitchell. 3, 2. I'm a professional. This is my first day. 3, 2, 1. Thank you again, all of you, for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please visit avnation.tv, where you'll find this show, as well as a wide variety of all the other shows with all the other verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.